All right, why don't we get started? I'll call this meeting to order. The Polk County Board of Commissioners. Today is Tuesday, November 21st. Please join me for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, are there any comments for items not on the agenda today? I have a quick announcement. It was just released by the Bezos Foundation this morning that Mid-Willamette Valley Community Action Agency received a $5 million grant from the Bezos One Family Fund, one of 38 organizations across the country to receive these funds to continue serving families who are experiencing homelessness in Marion and Polk counties. So big news for the area and just kind of a nod to the good work being done. Okay, next up, do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
I'll second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Next up, we have the Polk County Fair update. Tina and Tim, please join us.
Morning, Commissioners. Thank you for having us. We have a lot of great things to share about the fair itself and the fairgrounds year-round for our yearly update. We'll start with the fair. It's the biggest event that happens at the center. This year, fair admission revenues were up 11.5%. If you attended, you noticed people every day, everywhere. It was very well attended this year. We were very excited. To handle all that, the fair hired 19 temporary employees, most of those young people in high school, and Tina just raved about the crew she's had the last couple of years. She's been able to carry over some of those, and they work really, really well together. Central High soccer team did the kids area. DMLA did the parking, and Job's Daughters did admission. Admission was very smooth this year. Even during the rodeo, we never had lines of more than 10 or 15 folks. It was very smooth. They did a great job with that. So rodeo was, again, very, very well attended, standing room only again. But the share admission was no issues with getting all of those folks in the gate. The youth livestock auction was up 212 animals. That's a lot of lots to sell in a fairly short amount of time. And the gross was near $600,000 this year. For reference, when I moved to the Big D here in 2004, the auction grossed $80,000 that year. So it has grown exponentially. The support for youth in this county is unbelievable. And we thank obviously everyone for their support of that. Sponsorship, cash sponsorship, which includes the banners, donations, and all of that kind of stuff, was down, but in-kind donations were up significantly. And there was a $50,000 donation for the restrooms. Had a grant for just over $250,000. It's not calculated into the sponsor line, obviously, because it was a grant. But like I said, in-kind sponsorship was up as much as cash donations were down. So it balanced out. Premiums 4-H and FFA open class, all covered again by Polk County Farm Bureau, L&L Equipment, Pradham Co-op. Very happy those sponsors continue to invest in the youth of the county. In total, paid out almost $2,700 in special awards.
Before this gets too far away from me.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Can you describe some of what in-kind sponsorship means?
Yeah, so Knife River brought in 50 tons.
Yeah, it
of
was
sand.
the 500 tons of sand, the trucking, and there was a lot of in-kind in that.
There's a lot of that. We also had horse panels donated from another county fair. We had things donated from Wilco that we all consider in-kind because we didn't have to pay for them.
Yeah, Wilco gave us those storage racks,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
we
for
could get
those
panels
big,
up off the
huge, yeah.
ground now and get more
And those are
space.
worth like $2,000 a piece is what they were going to sell them for if we didn't want them. So.
Yeah.
That's
Thank you for the question.
and it goes like
The record.
this.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. Vendor booths, we had 14 food vendors this year. I hope everyone enjoyed the food court. We've heard great reviews of that, really. The past couple of years, we've had people complain that they didn't think there was food at the fair because, right, you had to kind of hunt for it. And part of that was just the infrastructure that we had to be able to plug those things in. And so with the removal of that old 4-H building and some hard work from staff and vendors to be able to create that space was a huge hit. Food sales were up nearly 15%. Alcohol sales were up 10%. And we had 42 commercial vendors, which is 8 more than last year. So growth across the board there. Now we get into the real growth in terms of exhibits. Open class was up 12.5%. That's 2,100 exhibits. And exhibitors were up 48%. So we had 250 open class exhibitors bring their wares to the fair. Superintendent, again, we had a full slate of superintendents this year. Can't run the fair without those superintendents in those different areas. They make a huge difference for us. 4-H and FFA exhibits were up as well. FFA had 116 exhibitors. That's up 23% and 202 exhibits. 4-H had huge growth, 234 exhibitors and 2,200 exhibits. That includes all of the static art, all of the things in building B, as well as all of the livestock exhibits and the presentations, the cooking demos, all of those types of things all go into that. So huge growth in 4-H this year, and they're expecting growth again this year as well. Those youth programs are really taking off. Fundraisers total, there were 8 held during the fair by local organizations totaling nearly $610,000. And again, the livestock auction is counted in that. And so that's nearly $600,000 of that. Fair events specific events at the fair. Obviously the rough stock rodeo is the biggest draw for us Thursday night. We brought in additional seating this year and it still was not enough. We're still problem solving how we can get more seats for that night, for that event. It is obviously very popular and we want to make sure that people have a great experience there. We had a different train this year. We'll leave it at that.
Just
We had a
leave it at
different train. Issues with the old one, it couldn't get here. So obstacle course and water slides, again, were a big hit out in the kids area. This is 2 years in a row, I want it on the record, that we've had absolutely perfect weather, which means next year it will be 106 or it will be raining sideways, just to get that out there now. So we're covered. It's unheard of to have great weather like that 2 years in a row. We again had free monster truck ride sponsored by Home Comfort in the arena Friday night.
Mhm. Yep.
Kids always love that. Drone races Saturday was interesting. People liked it and it was really interesting to see. They move so doggone fast and they're kind of small. It's kind of hard to be a spectator in that, but it's interesting. And then we had the Heritage Tractor Pull in the arena Saturday afternoon. And it draws what it draws. It's not a big draw. It's the same 6 tractors pulling over and over and over again in different weight classes. So livestock auction has found its home Saturday morning. That was a big hit with the folks, the buyers coming to buy. And so that allowed us to rearrange the schedule. And as we start that committee meets again in December and we'll fine tune the schedule, but the livestock auction will be Saturday morning again. Family Fun Zone had Southwest Polk Fire District, the obstacle course, drones, steampunk, tarot card reading, water slide, bouncy courses, the Marines, National Guard, and the Sheriff's display. We thank all of them for helping to create that kids area. And then as a fair board, we held a recap with the public on September 14th and received feedback and kudos and how we can do things better next year. Any questions about the fair specifically?
I don't really have a question, but
Yeah,
I just like to comment. The food court around that grass area, right there in the middle,
yeah,
was amazing. Right next to where the auction was going, and then moving the stage back in the back section there. So the auction and the stage never competed against each other like in the past.
yep,
It was just the layout was amazing. I heard
Yeah.
so many people talking about how it just worked. But all of that food right together, picnic tables right there, it just made a natural gathering place. So just great job. I thought it went amazing. So I think that's the best experiences I've had out of the fair.
thank you. Yeah, we had similar comments, and this year the stage will still be back up in the same space, but I think we're gonna get rid of the tent that was kind of blocking the view from the food court that let people know that the stage was up there. So minor improvements that way, and we're already programming some different things to be on the stage that will draw more people up there into that floral area again. So thank you. Any other?
The shade that you put over the auction area,
Yeah,
we might see if we can get a secondary one just to cover another section.
yeah,
You know, when the sun starts beating down, it gets pretty hot.
it does.
So we might take a look at it.
Okay. Yeah, challenge is that, yeah, the trees that we hook it to can only hold so much, but yeah. Yeah, that's been commented before as well.
My then 6-year-old loved the fair.
And that's our target audience right there.
What's
So-
cool is that every age he advances, there's
Right.
something a little bit new to discover, right?
And I think
So-
next year, staff, we had a work session
October.
in October.
Yeah.
Commissioner Pope was there and just brainstormed some different things for different age groups and staff took that. And I think people are gonna be really excited about the 2024 fair.
It was awesome.
It'll be amazing. So, in terms of facility usage year round, 607 events with nearly 100,000 people passing through those fairgrounds on a yearly basis. 13 fundraisers. This is outside of the fair. That raised nearly $175,000. That's all reinvested back into Polk County. So counting the fundraisers at fair, $750,000 was raised at the fairgrounds to be reinvested into the county. Events were booked for the remainder of 23 and have started booking all the way into 2025 already for that facility. Gun show is in December, is coming up, and typically the fire department has helped with parking. Unfortunately, they're not going to be able to do that this year. They want to double the rate of pay for that, and so we kindly declined that and have worked out another plan for staffing the gun show on the parking side. Storage, we opened storage a little later this year, just in case there were wildfires and we needed the barns or the facility as a rescue center, as an emergency center. Luckily, that did not happen, but storage is already full. And we will be looking at in our February meeting, when we look at rates, raising the price of storage for next year, just to remain competitive with other storage facilities. Jesus is continuing to be our concessionaire. He does some of the bigger events, flea market. He's doing the holiday show.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Mhm.
And the gun show.
And the gun show.
So he's been awesome to work with. He bends over backwards to make sure that people are fed well at those events. Grounds, building and equipment completed all the projects that were dedicated from the state grant funding. Walk-in coolers got new motors, so they run nice and cool. Ceiling in the side room of building A has been completed to match the main room. It looks really cool. The roofs of the barns have been pressure washed, repaired, and recoated. So we're maintaining those roofs for longer life, and lighting upgrades have been made in all the barns. We have an additional list of projects coming up that we'll talk about here in just a moment. Overnight camping is still running strong along with the dump station. Those tend to be very popular. Fiscal outlook. Fiscally, the fair is struggling to keep up with revenue necessary to run the facility. Help from the county continues to be a lifesaver for the fairgrounds, and we cannot express our gratitude enough for the value the county sees in the fairgrounds. And we hope that we return that value back to the county. Continue bringing on more revenues. There is money coming to fairs from lost revenues from COVID. Tina just updated me on that last week. They are working on a plan to get that money out to fairgrounds. Looks like probably every fairground will get an even share of that money rather than a prorated. So that works well for us. Our annual work session is February 10th. Everyone is invited. And there is one board member whose term expires December 31st, Suzanne Burbank, and she has.
She's already been reappointed.
Oh, perfect. Thank you.
And then
We don't want to lose her. We did just have another resignation after our board meeting on last Thursday.
Yeah.
Is that when we met?
Yeah.
Shelley unfortunately needs to step away from the board just from family issues, and she needs to focus on her family, and that is absolutely the right decision. She was a valuable member of the board and will be dearly missed, but we will start looking for replacements. We now have 2 openings, and so we will start that process of looking for members to join us on the board. But until then, we will run with 5 until we can find some replacements. Current staffing includes maintenance custodian and office assistant. Limited staffing is becoming a problem as events get bigger and more of them. Have not hired a new caretaker at this point. In our work session in October, we came up with several plans, and Tina is moving forward with those to utilize both that housing and fill in the gaps in staffing that are there, that are becoming more and more apparent as we move through that process. Staff and board are working on a new master plan that will be coming at some point in the future. And then there is an updated project list that we'll talk about here in just a second. And we'll be working on the 2024 fair and how to draw in more people. And we had that work session in October, brainstormed some really cool ideas, and then the fair staff took those and turned them into things that can actually be done. So we're really excited about what the 2024 fair will look like.
no zip line.
Yeah, that was one of the ideas but it's monetarily not feasible at this point in time. So
Morgan won't let me put it on my insurance.
I wasn't gonna say that.
I'm just gonna throw you under the bus.
Any questions about fair operations or the event center operations at all?
Just a clarification, back to, I'll find it, bear with me. Operations and total financial,
Mhm.
it says with the fundraisers held, the fair total is 783,302.
Mhm.
So is that all gate, all?
No, that's just fundraisers.
So
No,
what I'd like to have and keep it coming year in, year out is the total from in a 12-month period. You pick the date, I don't care.
Mhm.
What the total revenues are
Oh, okay.
for the facility.
okay,
It'll be important in the future.
okay,
Okay.
Yeah.
I want us to be tracking what the total values, economic values of that property are.
okay,
I think it's important to keep
absolutely.
thinking about that.
Yeah.
As we're
Yeah,
asking,
we will add it.
Okay.
Yeah.
potentially asking the community to make a
Right.
new investment.
Yes.
Right.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you for that. Yeah. Question. Any other questions or comments about facility itself, year-round operation?
Just curious on your thoughts. So
Careful.
obviously, the grounds have been used for emergency management purposes in the past, and there's not really a revenue stream for that. It's a community need and it's a community response.
Right.
And there have been some attempts, some legislative attempts to supplement some of those costs or fortify some of the facilities for those purposes. They failed last session, unfortunately. What are your thoughts on that? Just generally, obviously, logistically, it's a prime location, but would you support legislation to help offset some of those costs or upgrade some of the facilities to be better equipped to respond?
So what's on the table, what was on the table at the long session and what's going to be on the table again, not on the short session. We do have a bill in short session, but it's not tied to the emergency, is to make fairgrounds, it would be for infrastructure only. So for us, it would mean upgrading our electric system, which desperately needs, we have a generator that can run 2 buildings, but because of our electric system, we can only run half of one. So for us, and it's been brought, the point has been brought up that this would not then turn the fairgrounds into only an emergency management, but it would also benefit the fairgrounds year round. And that has always, that little piece of it has always been on the table to maintain the facility for community usage all year. But that's the kind of things that we're looking at, is to upgrade those kind of things to make us better ready for those emergencies. I know that there are some fairgrounds. We're super lucky to have such a great emergency manager who just works hand in hand with us. I know, I love Dean.
He's not even in the room.
He's not here, right, Greg?
He's been so great to us in getting us radios. I mean, there are fairgrounds that have no way to communicate to each other during emergency, and that's pretty important when you're running on 36. Some of them are running on a 100-acre facility. They need to be able to talk to each other. So that piece of it for infrastructure, I think for every fairgrounds in the state is huge. I know what it can do for us.
We believe the fairgrounds is a community resource, right? And so making sure that it is a facility that can respond to whatever the community might need in times of need is critically important. And most recent example was wildfires. It may not always be wildfires, right? Mm-hmm. And so looking at infrastructure that makes those facilities truly usable 24/7 at the drop of a hat for people in need is important.
There are not enough places to put animals. And really that's our key. For Polk County, our key is not people as much as it is animals. We took in almost 400 animals during the last wildfires. I don't know where else those animals would have gone. They were such a mix of animals. Had a few fights, but we got them separated. But there isn't a place always to put all those animals. So.
Yep. So appreciate that. I know that's not regular operations or revenue generating operations, but it is a big community need, and we'll keep an eye out for that. Yeah, those bills to support those efforts. And
the other important thing about that, and I don't want to say anything bad about Red Cross, so don't misunderstand me. When we are able to take in things in emergency, we're able to take in people in RV trailers so they can be close to their animals. I can tell you that Red Cross does not allow you to be in the same area as animals. So we have called Red Cross in before during the floodings in '96. And I took a chicken in every night to a little 6-year-old. And at 5 a.m., I took the chicken back out to the barn because she needed it at night, and Red Cross would not allow it. And as much as I appreciate Red Cross and what they do, there is a uniqueness to our facility for people to be connected. And during those wildfires, we had one family that I don't know what they would have done if they had not been able to be next to their animals. That was their only, when they left, the fire was swishing at their back door. And it was important for their mental state to have those animals close. So we have a little bit of a uniqueness that a lot of places don't have.
appreciate that.
Other questions or comments? Okay, we'll go over the project list real quick for 23-24. Some of these are wish list items and some of these are might actually happen. So just put that out there. Asphalt is in some pretty bad shape in areas, so creates some flooding issues when it rains. And I know it doesn't rain very often here, but it does happen. Tina just talked about the need for electrical upgrades. Power to the facility is fine. How we distribute it is not fine.
Challenging.
And that is a real challenge when food courts or extra RVs, emergency generator, all that kind of stuff makes it a challenge. Main building is what it is, but it could use some sprucing up. It needs a facelift. We had a student actually come to us during fair or right after fair.
No, it was
because-
during the middle of
yeah,
fair.
he had spent a lot of time washing his goat and had it just looking awesome, and took it out of its pen to go show it, turned around to latch the gate back on his pen, and the goat laid down in the sheep barn. If you've not been there, the sheep barn is a dirt floor, and his goat was white. I say was, because when it laid down on the dirt floor, it was no longer white. And so he came to Tina fuming a little bit, and he's like, I want concrete in the sheep barn. Tina, being Tina, said, that's an awesome project. You should figure out how much that cost and make a presentation to the Fair Foundation. And so that's what he's doing. He
January 9th.
figured out what it would cost to, and it's, you can see the number there. It's $140,000 to put 6 inches of concrete in that whole barn, excavate it out and but he's on it. So he's gonna make that presentation and he's pretty passionate about it. So the old,
Unfortunately, you may want to have them add prevailing wage to it.
right, I know,
But 140 won't be.
well, not gonna do it, no.
Be a good mentoring opportunity for you.
Yes.
How government kills itself.
Exactly. The old PA system, we're not able to get parts for that.
We did.
Oh, we did update.
I'm sorry.
Oh, you got parts?
Kind of.
Who'd you steal those from?
The guy who put it in, who's now retired, went and made parts for me.
Okay.
And got my RPA went down in the main building. And once it goes down the main building, it tends to go down in the entire fairgrounds. So I think we only had to go through 2 or 3 events without it. And then he was able to get those pieces up and going again. And then he is going to come out and try to give us an upgrade on the computer pieces. Remember that PA was put in 15 years ago. So it was outdated within the year it was put in, and now we're just running on borrowed time. So at some point that will need an upgrade, but we are Mickey Mouse in it together.
The desire to remove the old shop and the paint shed and replace it with one metal building that has a roll-up door that can actually get things in and out of it. Furnace in building C has actually already been replaced. And that was with a grant from Business Oregon. New carpet in the entry and the offices, that's actually scheduled to go in January. Building C needs some ventilation during the summertime. Those metal buildings can get a little warm, so would like 4 big exhaust fans to move air through. There's some concrete issues in the main building, and then new double doors in building B to replace the wooden ones. The desire to move the office out of the main building and then upgrade to more energy efficient heat and cooling in the front part of building A, and upgrade the playground and equipment out in the grassy area. So that's the wish list, some of which have been done. The rest are on the list to do. Questions, comments, insertions, deletions, or other concerns?
So at AOC last week, of course, we had a presentation there. I didn't see either one of you guys, so
Couldn't be there.
wasn't sure if you were in the room somewhere. I just didn't see you.
I did the online one.
Okay. Fascinating conversation about the 1% lottery cap.
Yeah.
And the hopes and prayers from Oregon Fairs Association that legislation will move. And that's fair. And I thought it was fascinating to learn of Union County's challenges, and that they have a facility with no running water, no working restrooms. And the position of the Washington County director, which I visited with her afterwards, in that meeting, you may have heard, was I think a lot of us would just say, you can have our $54,000 for a year. We should all do that, just so that Union County can get their facilities to a fair human capacity as it should be, which I thought was a fascinating thing. Sadly, we find ourselves in this region having to do that with ODOT. finding ways to pool our money just so we can get a project built.
Right.
So it's not unheard of to do that. I'm not advocating for it. I just thought it was an interesting and fascinating story. I also challenged her as she was saying, you know, the whole panel was saying, you know, this, I think it's 225-ish that we're wanting to push this back up to versus the 54. Am I getting that right? 54?
Yes,
Yeah. And of course I said, and they all, you know, all said, you know, 225 isn't going to save us in operations, but of course we'll take it. But essentially asking all of us as commissioners that were engaged to help get that over the line. And I've advocated for that, of course, over time. And, you know, we continue to knock on that door, and it's just fascinating to me how legislators just, it's such a small ask. I mean, it's a big number all combined for the whole state, but it's just such a small ask. And it's just fascinating the politics of this and why it is we just don't seem to be able to get them to really lean in and really put us back to a level that they once said yes to. One of the things I thought of that was fascinating is it's an absolutely great example of how you cannot bind a legislature, even though in statute you said 1% of the lottery funds are going to go to fairgrounds. And we have the same thing, by the way, with Oregon Association of Counties, where we agreed to use of lottery funds to fund regional solutions. State gets half the money and AOC gets half the money. And AOC puts the money in with the state, and then the state does whatever they want, and including almost no operations in regional solutions. And we keep saying, where's our contribution? What are we getting? So the fairs are not unique in that failed promise. So I guess the reason I'm bringing it up is just to help for the audience understand the challenge you guys constantly face and the threat to every county that the commissioners will be forced to use general fund dollars in one way or another to keep our fairgrounds facilities alive or safe and so forth. And then, of course, all the interests that are coming along that are saying, well, we want it to be used for this or that as well. But nobody's bringing any money with them to do that, but or fail to consider it is an enterprise property. I always want to keep emphasizing that to people. This is not a public park. It is an enterprise facility. And it's not a free, open public space that we get to go put tiny homes on or things like that. I did bring this up also during this meeting because there seemed to be a little advocacy for that. Washington County opened that door, sadly. And I said, that is not what this property is supposed to be about. And so I'm very cautious about those kinds of conversations because I think moving into that realm will potentially defeat any support we're asking for from the community for something bigger in the future for their benefit. But it was clear to me during that presentation, I think that all the counties in the room and the panelists were all advocates of continuing to maintain fairgrounds properties, trying to find new ways, better ways to make them relevant to the newest generations that want to use them, continuing to find ways to get those generations engaged. But it all costs money. And I'm not sure that we are all telling our story adequately. I had a conversation with Patrick afterwards, and I'll sidebar with you later about some of that, but I said, you guys aren't talking to your commissioners. And so, I mean, I'm pretty aware of most of the things that are going on, but I learned some things in that meeting. I'm glad I went in that presentation that I said, you know, we should have known about this stuff several years ago. So Patrick, you're not talking to us. You know, you may be doing a fair job of lobbying, but you're not bringing any of the commissioners along with us. So I just wanted to share that with you that, you know, while I think we all three of us support everything you guys are trying to ask for and engage in, you know, I am concerned that we've given a lot of authority or responsibility to the Oregon Affairs Association and its lobbyists. So I want to work on that.
We do too.
Yeah, okay.
Just so you know, we have some issues ourselves. I appreciate you being in the room for that. I think that the biggest frustration for fair managers like Leah from Washington County and I, we've both been there, 25 plus years in the fair industry, is that we always, and I mean always, step up to the plate when we're asked. We've never not stepped up to the plate, but when we asked for help, we get shoved in a corner. And I think some of us are getting a little frustrated of how do we continue to provide those facilities? Emergency is a real easy one. How do we continue to provide that on the little money that we have coming into our facility just to maintain it? We are so fortunate to have a great relationship with our county commissioners, with our county administrator. A lot of counties don't have that, and they are suffering even more than we are, and we are suffering. So I appreciate that you were in the room that day and listened to what they had to say.
Any other questions?
I think we're good. Thank you both so much for being here and
Appreciate
for
it.
all
Thank
the
you.
good work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Do you need to?
Great job, you two. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm gonna send you the electronic draft of your contract
Okay.
today, then you can forward it.
I'll forward it to him.
Yep.
Okay, thank
All right.
you. Thank you.
Thank you. See you. Anything else today? Adjourn.